Hey everyone, welcome back to another Persona 5 Panamix video. And in today's video, I will be talking about the damage dealers and the team comps built around them. So the whole idea is I'm going to be using the damage dealer and kind of building up the characters around who we'll be using at the launch, and if their launch team kind of change over time. So starting with the next character we're going to be receiving in global, I'm going to be looking at Fox or Yusuke. And at the start, his main team is going to encompass Yuki, just because Fox works off of counters, and so he also wants a lot of defense and a lot of shielding, which what Yuki provides, because Fox is currently our only defense scaling attacker, or sweeper I should say, so AoE damage dealer. And then the other character you could be using, for example, is there's not very many options right now for Fox, because we're very limited on which characters we can use. So Marion is not a bad choice, just because she helps with the survivability and the healing, as well as just the fact that she gives a general damage buff, a damage increase based off of healing. And so she's kind of like the only one. Or else we can also use Rin, because of the defense shred she provides on the enemies. So both of those is not a bad choice. But eventually what the team we would really want to be using is we'll be replacing Marion or Rin with Cherish, and then be using Yuki. And then eventually we'll get into receiving Mont 5-star on 3.0, who will be replacing Yuki. So the final team comp is going to be one Fox, and then Cherish as his main supporting unit. Cherish is the most important part of the team for this, besides Fox, because of the shielding he provides and the fact that he increases the defense as well. And then the reason why we're using Mont, because for one, she has two forms. She can either be a wind or a ice form, and she can switch back very easily during her turn. But the whole reason why is that, well, she's the only ice character, and she's kind of going to be the main damage to her eventually in the future. And then we'll be using, for the most part at the start, Puppet. But then because Yusuke kind of takes a sidestep to Mont, we'll eventually could be transitioning into either Futaba, if we have her, or we could be using Phoebe to help boost our Mont. So then our next character we're going to be looking at, who comes after Yusuke, is actually Makoto Nijima. So Makoto is an easy enough character to build with. All she really wants is get into her tenacity form, and she scales off of debuffs, elemental debuffs, which her 4-star who launches with her, Vito, will provide enough of. So the only mandatory character with her, I would say, would be Vino. And then we could be using, at the start, we could be using Marion or Ren or Leon. So Marion just to help provide healing and making the team less squishy, as well as the damage increase. Ren just because of defense decrease. Or we could use Leon just to help with the buffing, the crits and the attack and all that you guys already know about, I'm sure. And then when Cord releases, we'll be replacing the latter form, so the buffer, so the Marion or the Leon or Ren, with Cord finally as our last buffer. And then the damage dealer that comes after Makoto is our first summer unit, which is Summer Closer. And she really only wants two people, and those being, one is Marion, because Summer Closer wants to be overhealed, which is what Marion provides. So we have Marion as kind of like the go-to healer, because like even today, Marion is the she provides the most healing. Of course, you could use other healers such as Luful or Morgana, but they're not going to be as effective as Marion is going to be. And then lastly, her last teammate is going to be Cord. Cord is going to be a great general buffer for any team in the game that requires or wanting to use highlight eventually. And then our next DPS unit who comes out is our boy Messa. Messa, I want to tell you right now, if you pull him, if you don't pull A3, you're going to want to run a healer with him, because Messa will use a lot of his health during while he's attacking with him, because he's a physical damage dealer. But A3 restore HP equal to 2% of the last duration, which is his second of bleeds. And so you use laceration, you basically full heal off of that. And then that is kind of where it changes. So pre A3, you're gonna run a healer, which his go-to healer is going to be Summer Moko, because of the fact that she provides healing, not just on her turn, but she also does a lot of follow-up healing. But also she does ailment accuracy, which is going to help Messa land his bleeds really consistently. Or else, of course, you could run Marion as a good general damage buffer, or even Luful as a attack buffer as well, of course. And then his last teammate is actually going to be Cord as just another general beat buffer and to use highlight. And once you grab A3, that's when you can start mixing in some of the other supporting units like Leon. And then our next damage dealer is going to be Haru. Haru is one of those weird characters where they also scale off of effect hit rate or ailment accuracy because of her ability fusion aiming, where her entire kit kind of revolves around gaining sight stacks and then spending them with her A0 to use customization, and then eventually get into, where is it, and then eventually getting into overall customization. But Haru is a character who benefits a lot by getting her A1 because of the fact that anytime a new foe appears, Noir will automatically use fusion aiming, which is her first skill right here. And then with that, she gains a lot of attack and a lot of attack crit rate based off of her sight stacks. And then she builds sight stacks, and then she uses her gun ability to then use those to deal a massive amount of AoE damage. Accuracy. So one of her best supporting units is actually, again, Summer Moko. So if you're someone who, like me, wants to get Haru and Messa, you probably also want to pick up Summer Moko because they're going to be her she's going to be their best in slot. And then the last character we're going to use is Cord. So Haru eventually does get buffed to where she kind of doesn't need Summer Moko, but we can still run her today. So instead, we could just run her with another supporting unit, such as Wind Vass, or you could just run her with a good DPS debuffer unit like Vino over here, or even in the future Howler, of course. And then the next damage dealer I kind of want to be talking about is Mont, who will be coming with 3.0, and after Haru. Her team comp encompasses, so because she has a dual form, and we've already gone over her ice team, which is just Cherish, as well as using Yusuke. Just use straight up benefit from the ice team. Of course, we can also run a wind team with her at the start, where she kind of be using, where is she? Vito as well, and you could be running her with just another supporting unit. But her best in slot teammate for the wind is actually comes in the form of Wind Vass, which will come out 2 patches later after our next DPS character when we talk about Kasumi. And then our next character when we talk about is Kasumi, who comes out within a month after Mont does. And her best in slot teammate is, of course, Cord, because Cord makes Kasumi use highlights, which is exactly what she wants to use. All she wants to do is use highlights. She gains posture stacks by using her abilities, and by buffing her or using a dancing in hand, this buff ability onto a partner, which just helps her gain stacks of posture, and then she eventually can get into Masquerade, where then she can use her Thief's Tactics or her highlight to deal. Honestly, A0R0 I've seen do done over 1 million before. She's a really good general single target DPS unit. And then after Kasumi, we then, during the Chinese New Year, we got Chinese New Year Rin, where she is a technical damage fire dealer. And her teammate at the start would have been 1, Howler, and then 2, we would be using Wind Vass with her. But the Wind Vass, Howler quickly gets replaced with Matoi, who comes out within the next patch cycle. Because Matoi heavily buffs the whole technical damage, as well as she works exclusively well or really well with fire damage units based off of her kits. As we can see, such as right here. If the target is inflicted with burn, dispel their burn and then inflict all foes with fading flame. Or right here, I believe, yeah. Ice burn. Which, when Chinese New Year rank came out, they completely turned technical on its head and revamped it and buffed it entirely based upon Chinese New Year Rin, who is going to be one of the best AoE damage dealers. And then our next character we're going to be talking about is a fan favorite, Makoto Yuki. Everyone has been asking, when is Makoto Yuki coming out? I'm sorry to tell you, but you're probably looking the soonest, probably 10 months, I would say. So like maybe around April we will get him, unfortunately. But Makoto Yuki at the start, we're not looking to use Cord with him because so any of the Persona 3 characters, they don't have highlights. They instead use 3G. So instead we would be using, for example, Vast as a supporting unit and Howler. Where the next character that comes after Makoto Yuki is Yukari. Yukari will replace Howler and taking over as another good buffer for him. Yukari is just a really good general buffing unit for the C's characters or the P3 units because she majorly buffs 3G damage as well, but more importantly, the 3G refresh rate. So how quickly they can get 3G back. So eventually we'll be using Makoto Yuki with Yukari and Vast as of recording today. And then finishing up the P3 collab units that we've had as of right now is Akehiko. Akehiko main teammates are going to be one Turbo, and then I would say a must pull for him right now would actually be Yukari. Because Akehiko has a massive 3G bar and requires a lot of 3G energy to recovery for it, which Yukari helps him major with. So I would say that Yukari would actually be she is going to be his best support for quite a while, unless they come out with other characters that help him gain his 3G back. And then to finish off the video, our last character and our newest release character, or the undead looking queen right here, the Corpse Bride, is of course Barry. The only character I would say you have to have with her is Cord. Barry wants to be able to use her highlight to be able to burst her resentment stacks, and Cord helps major with that. And then the other characters you'll be using is one, you could use Howler just as a defense shred, or if you have Vast, I would suggest getting Vast. And generally speaking, for Vast, I would highly suggest, just like Cord A1, I would suggest pulling for Vast A1, just so that she goes from increasing wind damage to now she's making the enemy take increased elemental damage. And that kind of wraps up the video for today. I hope you guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are in the world, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.